Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Bankruptcy conversation. And during this segment of the show, I have bar-certified bankruptcy law specialist Gary Ray Fraley of Fraley & Fraley PC, doing business as Sacramento bankruptcy attorneys, and he's calling in all the way from, yep, you guessed it, Sacramento, California. Now, Gary, who is considered to be an authority in the area of bankruptcy, will be talking to you today about what not to do if you are in financial trouble. So, if you are one of the increasing amounts of people who find themselves in debt, find themselves facing bankruptcy in the Sacramento, California area, you might just want to, down tools, give yourself a break, log out of Facebook, Twitter, or anything else you happen to be doing. You may even want to grab a notepad and pen and listen in to what Gary has to share with us today. So with that said, let's not keep him waiting any longer. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thank you, Stuart.
Okay then, Gary, I'm glad you could make it onto the show. I know how busy you are, so let's just jump in with our first question for today. So if you could then, briefly, in your own words, describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations they find themselves in when they reach out to you for your help.
The people that come in to see me are not the big corporations. I don't want them. It's individuals, husbands and wives, small businesses that are struggling to get by out there and just can't quite make ends meet. Usually they've had some problem out there that has put them behind the proverbial 8-ball, and they've had a loss of a job, they have a loss of income, an illness, large medical bills. There's just a raft of different things that bring them in my office. The one thing that is consistent, and it may sound strange, is that 99% of the people that come to see me are not rip-offs, they're not flakes, they're good, honest, hard-working people that have had the rug yanked out from under them. And they would be tickled to pay their bills if they have the ability to do so. Once they're behind, the creditors start harassing and abusing them, and you get late charges, over-limit charges on debts, you got repossessions going on, foreclosure. It gets uglier and uglier, and they are digging as fast as they can, trying to dig them out of the hole they're in. Mm-hmm. Of course, that doesn't work.
Before we go any further, it goes without saying that anything that you share from this point on is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Now, with that said, I'm sure in all of the years that you have been working in your industry that you come across many common misconceptions. The people you help, they come to you, maybe they've heard things from a friend or a colleague, or they've gone online and researched things on Google, and they believe that the information that they have, they believe it to be true. However, you know, with your level of expertise, that it's not true. And you have to spend quality time debunking those myths, getting rid of those misconceptions before you can actually help your client. So with that said, what are, let's say, one or two, because I know there are possibly hundreds of them, what are two of the most common misconceptions that come across your table on a regular basis?
Well, the most common misconception people have when they come to see me is that they're going to file bankruptcy on this or that debt. And in fact, the bankruptcy law never worked that way. I practiced under the Bankruptcy Act of 1892 back in the 70s. And what happens is everybody has to say, oh, well, I just want to get rid of this debt. I don't want to get rid of the debt to Aunt Martha. Well, the law says that they must list everything they own, every debt they owe, all of their income, all of their expenses. As I put it, there's no but in the word all. It is everything. It's a complete financial disclosure statement. They look at the prior 6 months of income, prior bank statements, present income. They look at the last 2 years before the year you file, at the tax returns, at the income. So everything does really mean everything. Now, just because you have to list Aunt Martha does not mean that you can't pay Aunt Martha her money. But what you can't do is pay her before the case is filed. There's something called payments to an insider. And this is people that are related by blood, marriage, partners in businesses, significant others in the household. And if you pay something to that individual before filing, there's something called a Chapter 7 bankruptcy trustee. And that trustee's job is to go and take anything that was paid to an insider away from them. And they can go back as high as 2 years. Now, if the person borrowed money and paid down $5,000 and then recently borrowed $6,000, then there's no net benefit in that window of time. So the trustee won't go after him. But paying the wrong things is what gets people in the most trouble, outside of just not answering the questions completely and truthfully.
Based on what you just shared with us and keeping your client's confidentiality in mind, can you just please share an example of how you've helped somebody or how you would go about helping somebody who comes to you with those challenges, that misconception you just described, and what kind of transformational results you're usually able to gain for them?
Well, if I take the quintessential average debtor, they are usually individual husband and wife. Probably half my practice is people with small businesses where they have tax liabilities. They may have debts that are out there. If their business has failed, we can get them through the process, get the debt wiped out. If they have things called assets, this is things that they have that are not protected under the bankruptcy laws of the state they're in. In California, we have two sets of what's called exemptions. And it's kind of like going to a Chinese restaurant. You can have meal A or meal B, but you can't take the shrimp out of one, the egg roll out of the other. And what happens is if we have somebody and they have something, for instance, that cannot be protected, we have the absolute right to do what's called exemption planning. And that's where we take something that is not protected and liquidate it before we file the bankruptcy. Take the cash from that and put it into things that the law says you can protect. I had somebody just recently had a vehicle, one in excess of what I could protect. I had them sell the vehicle. They took that money. They were entitled to invest it in an IRA. So they took and invested that money in an IRA. And because of that, when we filed the bankruptcy, they got to keep that money. Another one was senior citizens, where they had Social Security coming in. And the Social Security was protected. The money they had in the bank was not. So I had them live off of the unprotected, the non-exempt money, while they allowed the Social Security to build up in their account. So when we were done, $10,000 that would have been taken by a trustee no longer exists. And in its place, we had $10,000 of Social Security that was completely protected. Bankruptcy is not about filling out papers. It's about timing. It's about strategy. You give me a box of Snap-on tools, an engine, all we're going to have is some scuffed knuckles and an engine that doesn't work. The tools, the bankruptcy law, does not make a person a bankruptcy attorney or a specialist. It's what they learn to do with those. And timing, asset planning, income planning are all things that are very, very important. It's really one of those things where timing is everything.
Fantastic. That's some great examples of how you've been dealing with those challenges that come across your table. Those people come to you with those common misconceptions and those preconceived notions. So thank you very much for sharing a couple of examples there. I'm sure you have many, many more, but we are restricted by time, Gary. So just as a reminder, today's topic is what not to do if you are in financial trouble. It's a very important topic. Now, with that in mind, Gary, and for those people who are listening in right now, those people who find themselves in the unfortunate position of facing bankruptcy, they're in debt, what's the most common but unknown pitfall that they might not, however, should be aware of, regardless of their situation?
Don't pay debts to anyone unless or until they've received good advice as to what to do from a quality bankruptcy attorney. Don't take money out of retirements or IRAs, 401ks, because that's meant for the future. You're borrowing against your future, and you do not want to steal from your own retirement. You need to live on what's there down the road. So don't borrow. Don't cash those out. Don't do what a lot of my clients do when they're struggling. They say, oh, well, I just need a little bit more money coming in, and they go out and they take a second job or they work a lot of overtime, and then find that that isn't going to solve the problem. And at that point, now we have the issue of that means test coming in saying, well, you have this amount of money coming in, you can afford to pay the creditors. Don't take payday loans. They're a huge ripoff. If you got to go to payday loan, you are obviously way too deep and need to be looking at bankruptcy. Don't write bad checks because then you're talking about a criminal act. If you leave a check with a payday loan store and it's post-dated, that is not a criminal act, even if the check bounces later. You want to know who to get a checking account with. If you are dealing with a checking account or a debit account with one of your creditors, let's say bank got out of Mongolia, let's say, and you got your account there and you also owe them money. If you file a bankruptcy, guess what they're going to do? They're going to freeze your money and close your account. And that's a very common problem I've seen, not only myself, but many, many other attorneys. I see it several times a year. Don't keep your account somebody you owe money to. If you've got a good attorney, they will know who else not to, because some places like Wells Fargo will close your account anyway, even if you don't owe.
Fantastic insights. Thank you so much for sharing. So, Gary, let me ask you something more on a personal level. How many years have you been in the industry helping people with debt?
I've been practicing bankruptcy law for 40 years at this point.
So would it be safe to say that within 40 years, 4 decades, that you have helped hundreds of cases, possibly even thousands?
I think I lost count when I was over 10,000, and that's been years ago.
So let me ask you this, Gary. If you imagine any day of the week, you wake up, it's 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and maybe your alarm clock goes off, maybe you wake up naturally, whatever the case may be. However, you have a full day ahead of you helping those people who find themselves in that unfortunate position of being in debt, facing bankruptcy, or whatever the case may be. Even after 40 years and so many cases, Gary, is this something that you're still motivated to do? Is it something that you still enjoy?
I love my work. If I didn't, I wouldn't have spent 40 years doing it. There are a lot of fields that are much more lucrative, but I enjoy making something happen for my clients. Each case is unique. Each person is unique. There may be some common traits, but every one of them is a different situation. And my goal is not only to help them get out from under debt. My goal is to see them rebuild their credit. I am one of the only attorneys that I'm aware of in the United States that gives every one of his clients a free credit rebuilding educational program. If the people were to go to the company online, they charge $1,000. Now, I don't pay $1,000 because I couldn't afford it, but I don't try to upsell that. I see attorneys that do that. I don't do that because I want them to rebuild their credit. By the way, 2 words that you should always run from are the words credit repair. There's no such thing as an honest credit repair company. These people, for instance, will teach you how to rebuild your credit back to A1. Because people don't want to just get rid of that. They want to have good credit again. And that's what I want to see them do, is get their credit rebuilt.
Tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background and your formal education and your experience as it relates to the topic of bankruptcy. Now, I'm sure after 40 years you could talk for half an hour and still not be finished, but we are limited by time.
Scratch the surface.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Please, go ahead.
Okay. Nickel tour of the cheap stuff. Graduated from USC down in Los Angeles with my bachelor's. I obtained my JD, Juris Doctor degree at UCLA, graduated in 1977. From there, became an attorney, practiced in this field, not totally. I was doing other stuff, and I eliminated things that I didn't like until one day I walked in the office and asked, "What's my calendar?" And everything on my calendar was bankruptcy. I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm a bankruptcy attorney." But I had a smile on my face when I said that. Sure. In 2000, I took the test for certification. The state bar went talked to the judges, the trustees. They even talked to attorneys I litigated against to get their opinion before they granted me that certificate for 5 years. And they've renewed it every 5 years since, going through the same process. So if you get somebody that's a certified specialist by the state bar, you're getting top notch. Let me put it this way. I was supposed to retire at 65 last fall. I've now talked my wife, who's my law partner, to make that 67. And when I hit 67, I don't know what my next excuse is going to be as to why I want to continue. But I probably will continue until they carry me out of here in a box. You get to do so much, and you get to make so many lives better that I can't think of anything other than maybe being a doctor. I was squeamish on blood, so that didn't work. You can make this major of an impact on the lives. And it's not just the people who are filing the bankruptcy, it's their families, their kids,
Yeah.
So it expands out.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so I've just got two more questions for you, Gary.
Okay.
I'd just like you, if you could, just to picture the kinds of people, those people who are in debt, who come to you for your help, and they're wanting to dig a little bit deeper into the topic of what not to do if they find themselves in financial trouble. Now, with that in mind, because obviously that's our topic for today, what would be your final thoughts that you'd like to share with those people who are listening in right now?
Don't do anything financial out there until you have talked to an attorney. Bankruptcy is about law. It has nothing to do with common sense. Alice in Wonderland has more to do with reality than the bankruptcy laws. And if it makes sense, it's probably wrong. So get the answers before you start making changes. I've seen people lost their home because they made decisions and made transfers without having talked to a bankruptcy attorney, and then saved money by filing for themselves, only to lose their home. So don't do anything till you've talked to a good attorney.
Great advice. Thank you for that, Gary. So if there is somebody out there who's listening in right now and they feel they want to know more about what not to do if they find themselves in financial trouble, how could they reach out to you? Where would they find you?
First is, like I say, you can find me on Avvo, Yelp, Google My Business. But if they go to SacramentoBankruptcyAttorneys.com, that will bring up my website. They can see a video of me. It's not a fancy website, but it has tons of information. And at the top of it, right below what I refer to as the credentials list at the top and the logos, there is 3 buttons. One is a contact us. One is about the free credit rebuilding program that we give people. And the third one on the far left is one called 48 Do's and Don'ts You Need to Know When Considering Bankruptcy. I would recommend anybody that's considering it, that's where they need to go. Read that, and it will give them a good starting point. I don't care if they're in New York, Florida, Iowa, or Outer Tucumcari. It will give them a good grounding in what not to do, and in fact, a few things to do. So it doesn't matter if it's somebody that, will go to an attorney someplace else. That's good. That's not a problem. It's there to help everybody. Now, to get hold of us, there's that contact us button, or they can call my office number, which is 916-485-5444. So 916-485-5444. And I look forward to being able to talk to them and help them out.
Well, thank you so much, Gary. I honestly feel as if I've been in the presence of bankruptcy royalty today, 40 years in the industry, and so much more that you could share. However, we are out of time. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, as a reminder, that was California State Bar Certified Bankruptcy Law Specialist, Gary Ray Fraley. Thank you so much, Gary, for sharing so generously with us today. You have certainly, without a doubt, demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
You are so welcome, Gary. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener. Thank you for joining us on this very insightful and informative discussion with one of the top certified bankruptcy law specialists in the Sacramento, California area today. Again, another reminder, his name is Gary Ray Fraley. Make sure you do check him out, give him a call, send him an email, visit his website. Definitely download that report. Click on that link that takes you to the 48 do's and don'ts when considering bankruptcy. That sounds like a fantastic resource and a great place to get started. So that's it, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading bankruptcy professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Bankruptcy Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present, and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.